Right, over the past week or so, there have been a lot of reports and rumours about MotoGP potentially adding radio communication into the sport next year. And today we are seeing a lot more reports and rumours saying that this will happen now. It's sort of more being confirmed. And I want to talk about this because this is a very interesting subject which is splitting a lot of people among the paddock and in the fan base. The gist of it really is that it's meant to be a safety measure really. It's going to be used to make riders more aware of any incidents which have happened in front of them, which will hopefully reduce the chance of riders being hit while still on the circuit, or riders running into stray bikes on the circuit. However, reports are saying that the plan is to eventually make it a two-way communication system like we are seeing in F1, where the riders and the teams can communicate with each other at the same time. Now, let's start by looking at the advantages of adding radios into MotoGP for next year. Of course, like I already said, they are better communication for safety reasons. Riders can be made aware of any incidents in front of them a lot faster. And overall, we can't exactly reject trying to make MotoGP more safe. We can never have enough safety measures. Another potential benefit is better entertainment. I'm going to be comparing it to F1 a lot in this video, but we do see in F1 that sometimes the most entertaining part of a race can be the back and forth on the radio between the driver and the team. And the idea is for this to potentially be a thing in MotoGP. And as a result of this, this also means for better marketing opportunities really. We see F1 all the time posting clips from the race of different radio snippets from different drivers. This will be part of what MotoGP will do as well. It'll get more eyes on the sport basically. However, while we may be able to get more clips for MotoGP from the radio, and in theory make it more entertaining, I do think that just having radios in the sport will just make it less entertaining anyway, because I think it will take away a bit from the racing. The whole point of MotoGP, in my opinion, is it's based purely on rider instinct, and having radios, that direct communication between the teams and the riders, would take some of that away. It's a bit ironic that this has happened the race after Jorge Martin's big blunder in Misano when he pit when he really shouldn't have, but we wouldn't get moments like that anymore if they added radios into MotoGP. And that's one of the best things about this sport. It's based purely on rider instinct and rider ability. There's barely any input from the team during the actual race. The rider is given the information needed and they have to make their own decisions, their own strategic decisions. They have to do what they think is best, not what the team think is best. I also do think that while this is in theory a good safety option, as it makes riders more aware of any incidents in front of them, there are still some safety hazards I think with this idea. There is the potential for any sort of equipment to come loose, which could be distracting for a rider, which is more likely to cause a crash. As well as this, while I'm not exactly too sure how the system would work, if there's a little microphone inside the helmet, if a rider has a crash, that could potentially cause more injuries to a rider, and especially in their head. That's not what you want at all. I might be stretching there a bit though, and like I said, I'm not sure how the system would work, and it's entirely possible they find a system which doesn't involve any loose parts in the helmet, which is what I think they should do. I also have a feeling that this could encourage even more slow riding, around the outside of a track, when people are checking on their radio and doing radio checks. We already see far too much slow riding on racing lines and around the track in MotoGP, and it's quite dangerous. We've seen so many people in Moto3 get ridiculous penalties for the 4th, 5th, 6th offence of riding slowly in qualifying and practice. And I do have a feeling that having radios will just add an extra distraction and will encourage more people to ride around slowly, which is another safety hazard. Right, I've been editing this video and I've thought of something else, and this is quite big in my opinion. I think that if two-way radios were added to MotoGP, we would see a huge increase in team orders. One of the best things about MotoGP is the lack of team orders, the fact that it's just the riders to themselves. They don't have to sacrifice any wins or podiums to their teammate for the championship. I guarantee, if two-way radios were added to MotoGP, we'd see a huge increase in all the classes involving team orders, where riders are told to sacrifice a podium or position or even a race win in order to help their teammate in the championship. It's one of the worst things about any sort of motor racing, and I really don't want to see it added to MotoGP. So yeah, just wanted to add that in because I think it's an important factor to mention which I didn't really think of until now. And my final problem with this radio thing is, how often will it actually be used? I'm comparing it to F1 again here, but MotoGP requires so much more concentration than F1 does. And we hear F1 drivers always complaining about how the race engineers talk to them under braking. Imagine what it's like for a MotoGP rider. I have a feeling that the actual amount of radio usage will be very, very little. I do think there's a very good chance that a lot of riders will just tell the teams to not communicate with them at all during a race. While I'm not a rider myself, I can tell just by playing the video games, MotoGP is so much more difficult than F1. The last thing any motorcycle racer needs right now is a guy in your ear telling you if another person's 3 seconds behind or not. I do think that if two-way radio gets added, we'll see very little usage of it. I think it'll be a bit pointless. But what do the riders think of this? Because of course they're going to be the ones that are using this system every week. Pedro Acosta was the one who raised the most amount of safety concerns, like the equipment potentially causing injuries and being a distraction. He was the one who raised all of that. Pecco Bagnaia has said he will willingly take fines every race for not using it, which is a bold statement. He said that he tested it in Misano and he said he didn't like it and he is unwilling to use it in a race situation, which, fair play to him, I respect it. Aleix Espargaro, however, loves the system. He's been the main advocate for it and has been talking the most, he's been hyping it up the most in the media. However, he's retiring at the end of this year. He won't be using it in a race situation, so of course he's going to love it. Why does his opinion matter when he's not going to be racing next year? Pedro Acosta said exactly what I just said, and he's completely right. Espargaro's opinion on this should not matter. He will not be using it. He might be using it like twice in a wildcard ride, but apart from that, he won't be using this every week. Marc Marquez, he agrees with the entertainment side of it, saying that it will improve entertainment in the sport. However, he has voiced concerns that it will take away from the essence of MotoGP, and it will remove parts of the rider instinct, which is one of my main concerns. Bastianini has said that while he is willing to give the system a try, he isn't thrilled by the idea. Miguel Oliveira showed some very mixed opinions on it, and he did admit that the radio would be mostly just heavy breathing from all the riders. While Fabio Quartararo has expressed some support for the idea, however he mentioned that in the test in Misano, he couldn't really hear the radio all that well, and he said that they do need to work on parts of it to make it a finished product. And Maverick Vinales has also shown his support in the safety side of the idea. Johann Zarco has voiced his disagreement with the system, saying that the sport should be about riders making their own decisions and not the team, which is what I agree with. And also Marco Bezzecchi has said he likes the idea overall, but he thinks that getting the message on the bike will be far too complicated and difficult with the current system. So what do I think? From a safety concern, I like the idea. We can never have too much safety in MotoGP. Anything which increases a rider's chance of surviving an accident is positive. However, I think there are better ways of going about this. And my main concern is if they do add a one-way radio system, they will eventually add a two-way radio system like they have in F1. That is the main goal here. And that's the bit that I don't want. I'm happy for them to have a radio system which makes riders alert of any sort of safety concern, but I don't want them to add it so that the rider and the team can talk to each other. I think the way they should do it is like in Formula E. Formula E have a system where the race director himself can speak to all riders at the same time and make them aware of any sort of hazard. If there's a car on the track, if there's a tyre or any debris on the track, he will make them alert of it immediately and he sends the order to all riders. That is what I think MotoGP should do. But they need to do it in a way which ensures that there is absolutely no risk of any sort of equipment being distracting for a rider, and there's no risk of it coming loose and potentially causing more injuries to a rider. And I beg, please don't add two-way radio system. I do think it will eventually take away from the rider instinct of MotoGP, which is about 90% of the fun really. Like I said, moments like Jorge Martin completely bottling the strategy in Misano last weekend, that wouldn't happen anymore. We won't see strategic masterclasses like Czech Republic in 2017 for Marc Marquez. We won't see anything like that anymore because it will all just be manufactured by the team instead. They'll have about 3 people sat behind a computer telling the rider every lap what to do. It's no fun really. It's better when you just leave it to the riders to battle it out. Pure rider instinct. That's what MotoGP is all about, and I think adding a two-way radio system could take away from that, unfortunately. But that is my opinion on MotoGP potentially adding radios from next year. But I want to know your guys' opinions. Will adding a radio system be positive or negative for the sport? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're there, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. I want to quickly say, I am really sorry for the lack of uploads as of late. It's poor from my end, I know. I promise I'll be maintaining a more consistent upload schedule from this moment on. We're in the business end of the season now. I'll get it back together. I'll upload more. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.